How the world looked before the flood of Noah. The loss of almost an entire human race. The loss of most common and most exotic animals in history. The destruction of all buildings and monuments. The washing away of forests and vast lands, endless rain and overflowing water. And the loss of a burgeoning and fledgling civilization. These are some of the events that marked the Prediluvian period. That is, the period before the flood of Noah. The flood of Noah is one of the most significant events in the history of the world. It characterizes the destruction of the world by water and flood as a result of human failure to live according to the commands and injunctions of God. According to the Bible's account of the flood of Noah, only 8 people survived the flood. Noah, Noah's wife, Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, as well as their respective wives. The rest of humanity, who were living on the earth at that time, perished in the flood. The flood of Noah was a complete reset for humanity. It was a comprehensive cleansing of the world and a second chance for humanity to recalibrate and put its acts together. It was a show of the power, justice, and mercy of the Almighty God. But what was the world like before this great correcting flood? That is what this episode is about. The world was indeed mysterious, with many cultures still unknown to us, as well as the existence of exotic and wild creatures that are no longer in existence. This period, commonly referred to as the Prediluvian or Antediluvian period, was characterized by people who lived hundreds of years, giants that roamed the earth, and angels that lived amongst humans. It was an era unlike any we have experienced since then. The period is recorded in the first chapters of the book of Genesis. While the Bible does not provide extensive details about human accomplishments during the time, it does mention a few notable individuals and developments to include: Number 1. Agriculture and civilization. The Bible mentions that humans engaged in agriculture and began to establish settlements. For example, it mentions that Cain, one of Adam and Eve's sons, became a farmer, and his brother Abel kept flocks. Genesis 4:2. Number 2. The invention of musical instruments. Genesis 4:21 mentions Jubal, who is described as the father of those who play the lyre and pipe. This suggests that musical instruments were developed during this time. Number 3. Technological advancements. While not explicitly mentioned, it is inferred that various technological advancements and developments in craftsmanship would have occurred during this time as humans began to settle and form societies. In fact, Tubal-Cain, one of the sons of Cain, mentioned in Genesis 4:22, is known for being the first blacksmith. He was also the first to create a weapon of war. Number 4. Longevity. One notable aspect of the Prediluvian period, as described in the Bible, is the extraordinary longevity of some individuals. According to the Bible, people in this period often lived for several centuries. Methuselah, for example, is said to have lived for 969 years, Genesis 5:27. It is worthy of note that even though human civilization achieved great accomplishments, it also perpetuated a culture of sin, which eventually led to its destruction. But what was life like for people at that time? What did they do? What happened in the world before the Great Flood? Obviously, the first antediluvian family was the family of Adam. As the Bible reports, after being expelled from the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve settled and had daughters and sons, notably Cain and Abel. Cain, the first son of the first human couple, was also the first murderer of the antediluvian world. He brutally killed Abel, his own brother. After this awful sin, Cain roamed the earth and eventually built a city in the land of Nod. Cain named this city after his first son, Enoch. This antediluvian city is the first city mentioned in the Bible. Another interesting point of note is that the antediluvian human was rational from the very beginning of creation. Of course, humans underwent a significant intellectual evolution as we acquire knowledge, develop new technologies, and cultivate new cultures. But there was no significant physical evolutionary transformation for our species, as argued by evolutionary scientists and theorists. This becomes very clear when we look at the biblical accounts of the period. Adam and Eve were rational and thinking beings,